Oh, it's a big double header of rugby league here tonight at the Ricoh Areaa. Hello Australia and welcome along. We don't have anything like this back home, and I tell you what, the English know how to turn on a fantastic party in the pre-game to the rugby league here tonight. Can England return to their winning ways when they take on Scotland? Before we get underway with the footy, we thought we'd come down and check out what's going on inside the arena, and the Coventry Bears are here. And Jono, what's this all about?
Yeah, so we're from the Coventry Bears, the local rugby league team here, and we're trying to promote the rugby league in Coventry because it's still more of a football town, and also rugby union with the Wasp. But we're doing well. We're out in the community coaching in the school, so it's not too bad. Yeah.
Do you find up in this end, part of the world, football is a little bit more rated than rugby league?
Yeah, so football's a big sport, and we're chasing football all the time. But we find that the kids, they get a rugby ball in their hand, they really like it. So it's just a matter of them learning that rugby is a good sport to play, and then they have fun with it. And yeah.
What sort of feedback do you get from the kids?
To begin with, it's we're not too sure about rugby, but yeah, like I said, after they start getting the ball in their hands and play, and they love it. Yeah.
Mate, they look like they're having a lot of fun, and that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a great sport. It's a lot of places they can go with it. So yeah, it's great.
And what about yourself? I can hear a bit of an Australian accent.
Yeah. So I've come over from the Gold Coast to Coventry. So I left the beaches for the Coventry weather, but it's all good. It's a great opportunity playing over here in England. So yeah, loving it.
Who's your tip for tonight?
I've got to go with the Australians, and hopefully maybe even Scottish upset. Who knows?
Nice flags.
Thank you.
A lot of work going into that?
A lot of work gone into them, yes.
What made you want to put those on your head?
Well, because we're English and we're silly.
Where do I get one? Who's going to win tonight?
Oh, definitely England.
England and Scotland, they've never met.
No, never. So England, definitely England.
So history in the making tonight.
Definitely.
England play Australia next week.
Yeah.
Are you scared?
No.
Never.
Who's going to win the Four Nations?
England.
England.
England. That's the key word tonight.
It is the key word, yeah.
It's probably not true, but we're saying it.
You look the part anyway.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming on the TV and showing the Australians how you should get dressed up at a rugby league match.
Definitely.
Just quickly before we go, how much time and effort goes into it?
Oh, it was a lot of effort.
At least 2 clicks on the internet.
2 clicks on the internet.
Yeah, definitely to buy them.
What are we drinking tonight?
Just lager.
Lager.
Do you enjoy your drink?
Well,
Do you always have a hot dog before a Scottish game?
Before St Helens game, yeah. We don't watch many Scotland games. Very first Scotland international, isn't it? Scotland England.
History in the making tonight. Scotland have never played England.
Not in rugby league, I don't think. But all we want to do is score more than 2 tries. We scored 2 tries against Australia. If we can do better than that, then we're happy.
Do you feel an upset coming on?
I think if England take us too lightly, they could get a little bite in the bum.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? James Graham, why rest James Graham? Do you know what I mean? Widdick, why rest Widdick? Do you know what I mean? Are they taking us too lightly?
How's your golf up at St Andrews going? Well?
Golf? I've never played golf in my life.
That's what he tells us.
Now you're going to turn in and say, do you drink whiskey? And my answer's no again.
For Australia tonight, there's no Cooper Cronk. Do you still think Australia will be too good for New Zealand?
Yeah.
So here's Jonathan Thurston, the Australians, coming into the stadium right now. It's a pretty cold night here in Coventry. Well, it's been a huge night here at the Ricoh Areaa here in the Midlands in Coventry. History in the making when England were too good for Scotland. I say history in the making, that's because both of those nations have never met in the history of our great game. Hey, Matt Russell, what did you make of the first match?
Well, what a difference a week makes. England really took it to New Zealand last week, but Wayne Bennett made a few changes to his lineup and it seemed to impact on their attitude on the field tonight. They came out much slower. They made more handling errors, they missed tackles, and they more importantly let Scotland get out to a 10-0 lead. They finally kicked into gear in the 30th minute, and from then on it was all England. But Scotland can take a lot out of that, and their coach Steve McCormack really took some heart out of that and said it justifies their country's position here in the tournament, and it really gave their country pride.
And we know Wayne Bennett, he doesn't say much at the best of times, but tonight he was very quiet.
Well, what could he say about tonight's performance? It really was slow. They came out and he even admitted there might have been some complacency. His team thought that they could just get over the top of Scotland, but there was a lot of heart in the Scotland side, and that showed tonight.
And there was a few Australians playing in the Scottish side tonight, and earlier this afternoon we caught up with those Australian Scottish players.
Yeah, no one really gave us a shot, but we had pride in ourselves and gave it a good crack. Unfortunately, second half they sort of ran away with a little bit, but definitely we tried to earn that respect back. We haven't had a lot this tournament, so it was about respect and doing our family and heritage proud.
Well, Kane, your coach says that justifies your position in the tournament. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, definitely. I thought the boys, we dug deep there. We played pretty well that first 35 minutes, and we know we can do that. But obviously, we need to play, for 80 minutes against a quality team like England.
Mate, what's it like putting on a kilt and going for a walk?
Yeah, it's good. No jocks allowed. So I'm proud of my Scottish heritage. My grandfather moved over to Australia, and we come from a little town called Yamba or Maclean, which is a little Scottish town in Australia, and all the telegraph poles are painted in all the tartans. So there's a Douglas tartan down close to the pub, which is good. So every year they have a Highland gathering and all that sort of stuff. So I'm very proud to put on the kilt and play for my family.
Yeah, a courageous win by England, but I guess a lot of heart and soul from the Scotland Rugby League side. In our second clash, Australia, they proved too good against New Zealand, although a late scare nearly rattled the Australians.
Well, what a funny game that was. Australia came out and dominated the first 15 minutes of the game with Blake Ferguson scoring and then setting up Jonathan Thurston for that 10-0 lead. But after that, it came a real arm wrestle. The playmakers were really struggling to get into the game, and that was shown late in the game when Australia got 2 penalties inside the 20-metre line and opted to take the points. But as you mentioned, New Zealand nearly stole at the end there. Sean Johnson really was the key, and he was able to get some momentum going. That held up try in the dying stages, and then they flung it wide and nearly stole the game away. So New Zealand can take just as much heart, but we just come from the press conference then, and Mal Meninga admitted that this was a step up from the Scotland game, but there is more improvement in the side.
Yeah, well, Mel Meninga, he mentioned that Australia was at pretty much 75% tonight.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's always good for a coach when they're able to say that their team can improve. They're coming up against England now, who really have a point to prove in this competition. They're playing for their survival next weekend against the Australians, and that's the way that's why Mal Meninga can really motivate his team this week. By saying that they cannot afford any complacency against this England side.
There were a number of great Australians out there tonight, but I think our man of the match, an outstanding game, Blake Ferguson.
Well, as I mentioned, he set up a try and he scored one himself. And late in the game, even his bursts. Mal Meninga even put it down to a key moment in the game was when he was able to make his way out of the in-goal line and stop the Kiwis from gaining possession right on the Australian goal line.
Next weekend, the Australian Kangaroos will head down to London to the Olympic Stadium, and they'll take on England. How do you see this one going?
Well, you'd think Australia would win on paper, but as I mentioned before, England have it all to play for. Wayne Bennett is a good coach, and he's known for pulling rabbits out of the hat. So we'll have to just wait and see next weekend. Mal Meninga can't go in there resting on turning players around, and he gave us a hint in tonight's press conference that he will play a test strength side next week to try to get into the final, the Four Nations final.
Australia still favourites in your mind?
Australia should win it, but as we saw tonight, it's a funny game. Like if a few things go against Australia, the bit of momentum goes. Australia sometimes have some trouble coming from behind. If other teams are able to get the lead on and put points on, Australia can struggle to chase the points.
And there's even talk from Mal Meninga tonight that they will welcome back Cooper Cronk next weekend.
Yeah, well, he'll be a key for the side as he always is. But it just remains to be seen how he fits back in with all the changes, because the team hasn't had a solid week-to-week team going through this tournament. He has rested, he has come out. Maybe the match fitness in these cold English greasy conditions may provide a bit of a weakness for Australia, but I still think Australia are the team to beat. They're favourites and they're the best team in rugby league, and beating New Zealand, who have beaten Australia a few times in the tournament or in previous years, really does give them the confidence going into the end of the tournament.
We just mentioned there the weather tonight. For everyone back home in Australia, we got down to -2 degrees midway through that second half. It was bitterly cold, and I'll tell you something, this microphone had frost on it. It was chilly, wasn't it?
I'm still thawing out after that. I had to spend a couple of minutes in front of the heater to really thaw out about that, and that really impacted on the game. I mentioned the arm wrestle in the middle stages of the game. I think that the ball would have been hard onto the players' hands. They wouldn't have been able to throw the ball around too much. I mean, we saw Shaun Johnson towards the end of the game chance his arm in the dying stages, but for most of that game, it wasn't the razzle-dazzle attacking football that neither Jonathan Thurston nor Shaun Johnson is famous for.
I think Australia also, they got a lot of impact off the bench. David Clemmer had an outstanding game along with Sam Thaiday.
Well, David Clemmer really is a big match player. He can get fired up, and we did see that. It was the impact, and I think that's where Australia might have been able to get on top of the Kiwis here with their bench. It shows that Australia's got a lot of depth and it was that middle stages of the game where really was dominated by the forwards.
There was a whole festival of rugby league here today at the Ricoh Stadium here in Coventry. Something that I guess the Australian fans and their clubs, they don't know about. It was a sensational atmosphere before the game. They had the arena downstairs buzzing, as you saw at the top of the broadcast. And I'll say, if anybody back home in Australia wants to pump up a crowd, check out that video at the top of the stream, because it was an electrifying atmosphere. Great to be a part of.
Well, here in Coventry, it's mostly associated with football or soccer, as it's known back home. But the rugby league crowd really turned out today, and it sensed that in the crowd as well. Because you hear anybody who hasn't been to an English game, there is really a lot of chanting. There's trumpets, there's a brass band, and they really get behind the England side. And even though we're not that far from Scotland, it was really a patriot.
But the thing is, Matthew, you're a very hard man sometimes, but you love tapping along to that band in the crowd, don't you?
Yeah, some of the tunes are quite catchy. It even has everybody...
You've even put it on your ringtone. Fantastic stuff. All right, well, I'll leave you go. I'll let you go thaw out. Have you thawed out yet?
Just about. But I've got to go back out into it.
You've got to get the bus.
I do.
All right, then. Well, thanks very much for your input today, and we'll catch up with you at the Olympic Stadium in London next weekend.
Look forward to it, Peter. Thank you.
Matthew Russell there, an Australian journalist covering rugby league here in England. Well, we've had a fantastic day here on Bar TV Sports. We hope we've brought a little bit of the colour and the glamour of rugby league to you back home. And we'll be back on deck next weekend when Australia tackle England at the Olympic Stadium down in London. Until then, it's a very good night from Coventry.